Good night, everyone. Welcome back to your favorite live sports show. Hashtag this just in. It has been a minute, but we are here to talk NBA. And if we're going to talk NBA, we have to bring on none other than TV on basketball. It has been too long. How has it been, TV?
It's been good, man. I'm excited to be back on the show. At Post All-Star break, there's a lot to talk about in the NBA. So I'm glad you have me back on. Let's talk some hoops, man. I'm excited.
Well, I know none of us are excited as a certain person with this 76ers hat because we all wondered how good would this James Harden trade work out. And in two games, I guess we have gotten the answer. Not, and especially on Sunday night after James Harden had a 29-point triple double.
Mhm.
Jerm from Stuff About Sports. I don't need to introduce you. My people know you well enough. So we're gonna get right into it and start with a huge Philadelphia fan. Jerm, I know you were telling me this just last week, but now the evidence is there on the table. Has James Harden now made the Philadelphia 76ers the best team in the NBA?
Man, I am going to taper my expectations, and I will say, I I was going to come in here and say, absolutely, without a doubt, slam dunk, for sure, that the Philadelphia 76ers are the best team in the NBA. But I will settle for a hell mother effing yes, they're the best team in the NBA. How could you stop the dynamic duo of Joel Embiid and James Harden? Unbelievable. Unbelievable what we've seen. It's everything that I could have wanted and more. How are they going to figure out the pick and roll? They did it in a game. And I will go on to say, Justin, on the record, I'm not even talking about the Knicks game. I'm just keeping it the Timberwolves game. One game of James Harden, better than 5 years of Ben Simmons as a Philadelphia 76er.
You did
Okay.
not say that.
I
You
did
didn't.
say it. I did say it. James Harden, in his second game, count them two, had 16 assists. Ben Simmons, highest total of assists in a game was 17, and he did it against the lowly Thon Makers Pistons. James Harden did it in 2 games. James Harden ties Justin. Ben Simmons, 3-point record of 5 3-pointers. It took James Harden 35 minutes to do it. All right.
35 minutes and 5 step backs.
And 5 glorious step backs and 2 4-point plays. I don't even think Ben Simmons even has that. I mean, it's unbelievable. Harden has also had 17 assists 9 separate times. So the one thing that Ben Simmons has to his name was that he's a great playmaker, which is a fallacy. He's not. He's a good. People say, oh, he's a great. He's not. He's not a good playmaker. All of his assists come on pick and roll handoffs. It's not like he's making absolute dime passes all the time. No, he's only a good passer in transition. That's his one strength. And if you shut that down, Ben Simmons is useless. James Harden is the best playmaker in the NBA, and we've just paired him with the best player, period, right now in the NBA.
So I'm guessing that is a resounding yes. The Philadelphia 76ers are the best team in the NBA.
Long story, less long. Yes.
TV, same question. What has James Harden elevated this team to?
The thing, okay, James Harden has given Joel Embiid. I think the one thing I've noticed was that James Harden has given Joel Embiid so much more opportunity, so much more space, because Joel Embiid's right. He hasn't had this much of a threat beside him in his entire career. Ben Simmons, good player, great defensive player. I give him even a lot more credit for how good he is as a playmaker. But James Harden is on a whole nother level. This guy has been like runner-up for a MVP how many times? And you pair him beside Joel Embiid, it's a scary, scary duo. And one of my things coming into this James Harden going to Philly is how is it going to work? Because Joel Embiid is not much of a pick and roll type of center. You give him post ups, you let him work in the paint. But so far, that pick and roll is looking nasty. And the thing is, like, James Harden has had lob threats his whole career, whether it's Clint Capella, whether it's when you go to Brooklyn and you have a Nick Claxton or something like that. Joel Embiid is not that, but you know what he does? Those little pocket passes right there. You have Joel Embiid going to the rim. he's going to get 27 free throws like he did against the Knicks, or he's just going to finish because he is one of the best bigs in the league. I'm assuming my guy thinks he's is the best big in the league.
Here in the league.
But okay. I wouldn't go that far, but okay. But at the same time, I mean, it's looked great. I think like people who said that Philly didn't win this trade, they putting too much stock into kind of the role players and Andre Drummond and Seth Curry, but they got the best player. We don't even know when Ben Simmons is going to play next. We still have no idea. But man, this team is dangerous. If I had to put them into like where they, like in the hierarchy against the league, I don't know yet, man. The Phoenix Suns, when Chris Paul comes back, they're dangerous. And the Golden State Warriors, when Draymond and Klay come back, they're still kind of dangerous. But I could say that they're firmly in the top 5. I really do believe so. I have to see more because, they're kind of in the honeymoon phase. Let's see how it goes throughout the season. But, man, I mean, so far in 2 games, it's looked absolutely crazy. They look great.
I want to piggyback off of what you said because we won't go with the Philadelphia fan. So, TV, like, I too was wondering, Joel Embiid is typically a post-up center, and I didn't know what the pick and roll would look like. I know how great James Harden is in the pick and roll, but my initial worry was, first, how is Joel Embiid going to react to playing the pick and roll? And my gosh, it is the most dominant pick and roll right now in this season right now. I did not factor how great Joel Embiid's hands are. I didn't factor that he wanted those pocket passes. And Joel Embiid talking about it himself, he has said he is so thankful he no longer has to go in the low post every single possession. So I figured that's what he wanted to do, but he didn't. And I figured also that Joel Embiid would have preferred to pick and pop. Oh, no. This has been, granted, it's a small sample size. Yes, it's the Timberwolves and the Knicks, but this is being destructive. Now, when I was talking to Jerm about this last week, my second concern was staggering the minutes with James Harden and Tyrese Maxey. What the hell do I know about basketball? Because I figured that Tyrese Maxey would have initially struggled because they have been making him a playmaker on the ball. Tyrese Maxey, I'm going to actually go as far as to say that James Harden's inclusion has benefited Tyrese Maxey more than anyone else on the team. If you look at his shooting numbers, the points he's putting up, and it's because like on these pick and rolls, when he is release valve, Tyrese Maxey has been so aggressive. He knows I'm going to catch and shoot, I'm going to catch and attack, or I am going to cut off the ball. Tyrese Maxey looks so much more aggressive, being freed, not having the ball in his hands. I have one concern, and I know that Jerm knows where I'm coming with this, right? And it's not even defensively, because I'm going to see now, James Harden likes to switch everything, and that works out for him. Because if there's a way that James Harden plays well defensively, it is in the post. And if you put and switch a big onto him, he's going to prefer that than running behind a guard behind a screen. My biggest concern I've seen in these 2 games, Tobias Harris on that weak side. And to show you what I mean, right? When on the strong side of a pick and roll, obviously you have James Harden, the ball handler, and Joel Embiid as a screen. Where Tobias Harris is on that, obviously he's weak side. And what Tyrese Maxey has been able to do, Tobias has refused. Because when you get that ball the weak side of a rotation, you have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be decisive in what you're doing. So it's either you catch and shoot, you catch and attack the rim because the defender is coming and closing out from the paint. You have to make one of 2 moves. I don't know, maybe it's early on, but yeah, Jerm, your guy has looked anything but decisive on those. I don't mind him scoring, 12 and 6 respectively in those games. It is that he is not looking decisive when that ball goes weak side. And that is the number one thing you have to do as a weak side shooter. You either have to catch and shoot and catch and attack the ball immediately. You cannot pump fake. You can't be indecisive about your actions on the weak side. But I'll let you answer.
My brother, Justin, I have to educate you sometimes. I'm glad you bring me on these shows because, as you know, as I like to say on stuff about sports, I have a monopoly on the truth. I have to keep coming on here and keep telling the truth. Okay? Yes, I will preface what I'm about to say with yes, Tobias Harris has struggled to adjust. However, if you watch the games or look at the box score, you could come to that conclusion that you came to. But Justin, he was plus 22, which proves that he wasn't hurting the team. He just up until 2 games ago, he was on the strong side. Now he's on the weak side. He has to adjust. He's a mid-range ISO ball player. Now he has to make decisions. Give him. We're spoiled by how great Joel Embiid and James Harden is. Like I don't understand piling on your players. Historically, negative reinforcement doesn't yield great results. We should be encouraged that Tobias Harris, even at plus 22, we're still winning these games by 15 plus points. And Tobias Harris is a good player. This team is good. The chemistry is off the charts. That was the thing I worried about James Harden messing up. Not only is he not weakening the chemistry, he's making it stronger. They will be fine. James Harden had nothing but glowing things to say. And down the stretch, he actually started to play a lot better. He made some clutch plays, especially defensively, with a lot of tip rebounds, a lot of nice picks that he was setting. So he will be fine. Give him time to adjust. It's scary because not only has he not played up to his standard, like people are disrespecting Tobias Harris like he wasn't a 19-7 player. And just last week, he was averaging 23 points per game up until I believe late November, early December when he got COVID. He will be fine. He just needs to adjust, find his rhythm, find his place. Once that happens, boys, the Sixers will truly be. I know Joel Embiid said the Sixers are unstoppable now. They will truly be unstoppable once Tobias Harris, adapts to this new style, this new dynamic that the team is putting forth. Justin, big numbers, guys. That's why me and you click. Just want to throw something out there. When Embiid, Maxey, and Harden are all on the floor together per 48 minutes, they're plus 42, my brother. 139.2 offensive efficiency rating. James Harden doesn't play defense. Knicks, 4 steals. When they're all on the court together, 93.5 defensive efficiency rating and a net rating of 45.8. And that's without Tobias Harris contributing what he normally could contribute. Trust me, the Sixers have the perfect amount of time to get this figured out. Go back and watch some of the replays. The reason why the pick and roll is dangerous, they are lulling. They're Embiid and Harden trying to figure out what they're doing. Look at all the other 3 other guys at the 3-point line. Every single one of them is wide open. And we've already seen Tyrese Maxey turn into a pretty good catch and shooter. Once Tobias gets to that, even though that's not really what he does, and we already talked about Matisse Thybulle earlier, once all 3 of those guys get more comfortable doing that, it will be truly over for the NBA.
Tobias Harris, I was already kind of iffy with the fit beside James Harden, beside Joel Embiid. And as you, Justin, I was concerned about Tyrese Maxey's role as well, but he is looking like he is like excelling more with James Harden on the court. So honestly, if you had to pick a big 3, it's going to be James Harden, Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey at this point. But the thing is, Tobias Harris is still a threat. Just like my guy said, I mean, he was just a 19-7 guy just a week ago, and we know what he can produce on the basketball court. He can hit the 3-ball. He has that really good pull-up jumper, and he'll figure things out. But the thing is, he's still a threat. You can't forget about him. You could maybe focus more on the pick and roll with Joel Embiid and James Harden, but you never know that one game that Tobias Harris can have. He can give you a 30-plus point game at any point because we've seen him do that in the past, and even in this system, he is still kind of adjusting to being on the weak side and everything. I still believe that he can find his role. I mean, maybe if it doesn't work out this year, sure, they could trade him next year because in the offseason, because that is something they've already discussed early on in the season. But with the way that things are going right now, having just an extra threat, that kind of X factor, I think that going into the playoffs, Tobias Harris could be that X factor when things are kind of slowing down for James Harden and Embiid. We know how James Harden kind of slows down in the playoffs, especially going further and further into a series. Tobias Harris can have those 20-something point games from here and there, and honestly, that could win them a series. They can win them a couple games. I'm still not a huge fan of the fit, but he is a threat, and I think that's what the 76ers just need right now, especially with those 3 top guys playing the way they are. If Tobias Harris is still there, they still got to respect him. And as long as he's on the roster, try to make the most of it.
Imagine Brooklyn not demanding Tyrese Maxey
Exactly.
or Matisse Thybulle, and still sending James Harden to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons and Seth Curry, who's turned into a nice player, but he was an easy, he plays the same position as James, so that's an easy upgrade. And Andre Drummond, who only had a year left and was going to leave Philly anyway, and then 2 picks that aren't going to matter. I mean, imagine that what Brooklyn gave up. And you said earlier, we don't know when Ben Simmons is going to play. I'm willing to bet he will be ready March 13th, the game directly after they play Philadelphia. He will somehow magically feel his back, his mental health, everything will be magically cleansed, and he'll be ready to face the New York Knicks March 13th.
I won't put any money against that. I'll tell you, if he didn't want to play in Philadelphia as a 76er, I cannot see him wanting to do so as a member of the opposing team. And speaking of opposing teams, we're talking so glowingly about the 76ers, but in any sporting matchup, there are 2 sides of the coin, and my God, the other side of the coin is not pretty. Going from one season where there were 10 games above 500, less than a year later, there are 11 games below 500. TV, what has gone wrong in Madison Square Garden in Manhattan, New York?
Okay, I'm gonna take you guys back to the 2018-2019 season, where the Sacramento Kings went 39-43. They thought, De'Aaron Fox, big time year. You got a good year from Buddy Hield. Marvin Bagley, although he wasn't on the court much, there was some potential with him. They said, look, we have a team right now. We add some veterans here. We can make the playoffs for the first time in over a decade. So they brought in Corey Joseph. They brought in Trevor Ariza on multiple year deals, 10+ million, thinking that would take him over the top to finally get him into the playoffs. And what happened? They were worse the following year, and the Kings are still in this purgatory, which it doesn't feel like they'll ever get out of. Now move on to the New York Knicks. What happened last year? 4th seed. They get eliminated in the first round in 5. I think it was 5 or 6 games. Trae Young just absolutely killed them in the first round, 5 games. And then they're like, you know what? Julius Randle, most improved year. They got some good production from people like RJ Barrett, who's actually improving this year. We just need to add, some guys on the periphery, and we could be a playoff team once again, signing Evan Fournier to a ridiculous contract, which no one is trading for at this moment. They brought in Kemba Walker to try and give him minutes at the point guard position, extending Alec Burks, extending Nerlens Noel, which at the time, but they still did it. And look where they are now. They're not close to the play-in spot. They are just getting battered night in, night out. I mean, they just going back to the 76ers game, Embiid and Harden was just going in. The game just felt super slow because the Knicks had Julius Randle on Embiid the entire game and just foul. He fouled out 2 guys. I think Mitchell Robinson and I think the backup as well got fouled out for the New York Knicks. I mean, they thought they were something, but they weren't that just yet. And instead of sticking with the young guys, having them develop, bringing in some veterans, as Tibbs does, he always favors the veterans. They bring them in, and they're halting the production of the young guys, and they're still not getting wins. It's typical New York Knicks stuff. They always jump the gun, and now we don't know what's going to happen with Julius Randle in the future. We haven't seen that improvement from Emmanuel quickly because he just isn't getting as much opportunity, and they're stuck with these big contracts that they're going to have to trade in the offseason. But the Knicks put themselves in the hole because they thought too big of themselves. They thought that they could move further, but as the Knicks do, they have dropped off significantly, and they're in a position they are now because they just have not looked good all season long.
As a Philly fan, Jerm, I know you want to dump on these Knicks. Go right ahead.
Oh, and I am. Don't even worry about it. Let me tell you, there's 2 problems with the Knicks, and there's always going to be 2 problems with the Knicks. For achievement, they took a flash in the pan. They took an outlier and made it a rule. They said, oh, wow, we made the playoffs. Julius Randle, here's a max contract. Here, Nerlens Noel, here's this, here's that. James Dolan, the worst owner, manager, whatever he is in basketball. Then you have Tibbs, who, I mean, yeah, he had that great run in Chicago, but he hasn't been that great of a coach. He gets this magical treatment that he's some great coach. The microcosm of the season is trading for Cam Reddish and not playing him because Tibbs didn't want him, which means there's a disconnect somewhere from the front office to the bench where the coach lives. When you have that problem, You can't be a good team, plain and simple. And I love to see it because if we talk about it in the NFL season, if the Cowboys are going to cowboy, and that is the constant in this universe, the Knicks are going to nick. And they're always going to do it as long as James Dolan is the manager or the owner, because all they do is just spend money and they live off of Madison Square Garden. And somehow the Knicks are the number one grossing franchise in the NBA because it's New York. It is the Mecca of basketball. And people are always going to show up there. But at the end of the day, you have to put product on the field. Sorry, buddy. The bags and bones of Derrick Rose and the overrated Julius Randle ain't going to get it done. And it's because stars don't want to come there. Like there was a time where like New York was the place to be, and that's gone. Like nobody wants to go there. The management's bad, the coaching's bad, the contracts are bad. It's just not a good basketball situation. So that's why they're not winning. They got a little bit of overachievement. They got hot. They made a good playoff run or a run to the playoffs, and then that was it. It was an accident. And this is who the Knicks really are, and it's beautiful to see.
I think we're all in agreement because when I saw last year's team and they got as high as 4th in the East, I don't smiled and I said, you know what? The New York Knicks are going to think that this is who they are and they're that good. And obviously last season, there's a lot of COVID issues, a lot of injuries, especially injuries, which allowed them to get to where they were. And I'm like, you're going to find out you're not good. And in the playoffs, I said, the Atlanta Hawks are going to spike them, because the New York Knicks are just two players. They play great defense then, and they relied on some ridiculous shooting numbers from Julius Randle in his breakout season and an old and banged up Derrick Rose. And I said, just wait a season. So said, so done. Julius Randle could not sustain those shooting numbers, as we all knew he couldn't. The defense has now dropped back to, came back to earth, as we all knew it would, because as Tomas alluded to, your coach, Tibbs, just likes to run veteran players in the ground. Doesn't like to play with young players, and that's why you see all these older players coming in. That's why you see Cam Reddish on the bench, because Tibbs does not like young players. Then the next thing, again, I'm a Duke fan, so I knew RJ Barrett's limitations, and I told my friends, you made a mention of it when you had Jerm, your player that you got for Ohio State. Remind me of his name again. I told them all that RJ Barrett is a left-handed Evan Turner. He is not good enough to be on the ball. He can't play off the ball because he can't shoot. So you're going to have some problems, and he plays below the rim for somebody so big. He's not uber athletic. So said, so done. His numbers came back down to earth. And obviously, as we know, Derrick Rose's injury. And those 4 things have just caused, and those 4 things should have been expected, especially under Tibbs, who only likes to run his offense through point guards and veteran players, doesn't like to give young players run. We have a ton of young players on the team that are not getting better, as Tomas explained. This team is just always bound to come back to earth, and I don't know why Knicks fans thought otherwise. Like, you could not believe that Julius Randle was really that good last season. Like, you really couldn't.
Well, so here's the thing, though. So, like, there's 2 ways, obviously, you build a franchise team. You have to either attract free agents. The Knicks obviously can't do that. And you have to draft well. The one thing that the Knicks really needed last year, they should have went for a shooting point guard. They got Obi Toppin, a stretch 4 who can't stretch the court. They didn't need him. They got him because he was the hometown kid. They didn't want a Miles Bridges or Mikal Bridges. I'm sorry. They didn't want a Mikal Bridges like the Sixers did, not take the hometown kid and they saw how the Sixers got treated for that. And the Sixers probably would have been better off.
How do you pass on Tyrese Halliburton? How?
I mean, Tyrese Halliburton could play 1 through 3 if he really wanted to, and so it's the Knicks just drafting. I mean, they took Frank Ntilikina instead of
Dennis Smith Jr.
A bunch of players. He wasn't the one I was thinking of at the time. Donovan Mitchell. Yeah. They took Frank Ntilikina over Donovan Mitchell. That would have been franchise changing for the Knicks. Donovan Mitchell could have brought another big name free agent. Donovan Mitchell could have brought LeBron James. LeBron James flirted with the Knicks for like half a day. Donovan Mitchell could have brought him there. And it's like you have to have these young, you don't even have to have transcendent players. Like you just have to have young, good star players. And the rest will take care of itself. The Knicks have been awful at drafting those. And, I think they have one. I think Cam Reddish can be that. But again, we talked about it. Tibbs is there. What's his name? James Dolan's there. Like as long as just like Jerry Jones, the Cowboys are never going to do anything as long as Jerry Jones is there. The Knicks will never amount to nothing as long as James Dolan's there.
I mean, just one more comment on Thibodeau as well. I mean, the thing about Thibodeau teams, and you saw this with the Timberwolves, you saw this with the Bulls. There's always a Thibodeau fatigue. Like after the first few years, it's always gravy with Thibodeau. You're getting to the wins. You're getting near, like you're just getting really good records. That's why Thibodeau won Coach of the Year last year. But usually this fatigue happens in year 3, year 4. And the fact that this fatigue has come already is already like not a good sign for the New York Knicks. And like he said, Reddish, you have some guys on the bench there that could elevate to that like maybe star potential type guy. But as long as Thibodeau's there, he's just not gonna play him. And so we're just never gonna know. So it's gonna be weird to like fire someone after having a Coach of the Year type year. But they just need to have like a player development coach. I mean, the Rockets moved off Mike D'Antoni to get Steven Silas for what? Player development, trying to get these guys going at a young age. They didn't need a Thibodeau. They didn't have that type of team ready. That's ready for a Thibodeau. And now Taj Gibson's still averaging like over 20 minutes a game when you got Cam Reddish and all these other guys getting less minutes than him. It's just insane. Honestly ridiculous.
I mean, and they signed Kemba Walker when he was like 3 years past whatever he could do. His knees were already done. He couldn't play defense, which is another thing you have to do in Tibbs offense, in Tibbs style. Evan Fournier, I mean, it's just like you just got a bunch of these just scraps, man. It's like you just threw some scraps together and you were hoping for the best. And the Knicks, it's just, I mean, I love it as a Philly fan. I love it.
As a Raptor fan, I love it too, man.
Yeah, but I'm from the area, and I have a lot of Knick friends who are fans, and it's like it's brutal, man. Like I couldn't, it's bad.
Well, y'all are liking the Knicks' demise, but as a Phoenix Suns fan, I am liking the Warriors' demise so far. And
oh my gosh,
it has they're on my tail for the top seed, so I'm loving it.
Mm-hmm.
They are. I want to say they've lost 5 of their last 7 games, including Sunday's embarrassing game where they gave up a 21-point lead against the Dallas Mavericks. TV, I'm going to start with you. What has gone wrong with these Warriors? And you can lay it on because I'm just here to listen to the Golden State slander.
I think what we've noticed, especially in this like kind of like slow streak for the Golden State Warriors, is that Draymond Green is just really important to that team. He's the kind of the connecting pieces for everything. I mean, let's be honest. We didn't know the Warriors were going to be this good coming into the season. Firstly, because we didn't know what Klay Thompson's status was coming in. I mean, he's still kind of in and out. I know he has like a flu or something right now, but we didn't know how good it was going to be. There were still a lot of question marks. Obviously, they drafted rookies, Jonathan Kuminga, who's been really good this year for his like limited role. Moody. They still got Damian Lee. They got the guy Jordan Poole as well, and we still don't know about Wiseman, but it's still working out. Steph Curry's having an MVP type season, at least for the most part. He's been kind of slowed down as well, but they were still a number 1 defense for the majority of the year, and a big part of that is honestly just Draymond Green being a teacher to these young guys, being the connecting on offense and on defense. And now he's been missing, I think, like almost 2 months of action, and you could tell that there is a massive difference in the team. This, I mean, as Justin said, the Suns are loving it. They're missing Chris Paul for the next 6 to 8 weeks. He's probably not going to play the remainder of the regular season. But with the Warriors not taking advantage, mostly because Draymond Green's not there. I mean, they I think at some point, like yesterday, they gave up a 26-1 run, a 26-1 run in that like 3rd to 4th quarter, and honestly, like there's just no one, like no veteran leadership there to kind of slow things down. Their entire offense was Andrew Wiggins pull-ups. Or just like Jordan Poole, like pulling up from 3 and just like missing. I mean, Steph Curry has been great, and I think like him, like not being at his best is definitely a part of it. But missing Draymond Green, even more than missing Klay, is just something that they're just missing more than anything. And if they want to make some noise, they're gonna have to have him healthy sooner rather than later.
On Jerm, Why are the Warriors the way they are right now, losing 5 or 7?
Let me bring you back down to earth a little bit. Let's check the Suns. The Suns are 49-12. They won 8 of their last. They're 8-2 in their last 10 games. Great, good for them. They have a 2-game losing streak. Okay, and so the Warriors are 5-5 in their last 10. All right, and they have a 1-game losing streak. They are. Let me check my notes here. Second in the West. They're 6 games down with 21 games left. Nothing is wrong with the Warriors. It was a bad game. Just like I don't overreact to Tobias Harris scoring 6 and 12 points. I'm not going to overreact to the Warriors losing a couple of games. Tomas just said it. They're getting Draymond back. They're going to get James Wiseman back. Klay Thompson every week gets better, and better. It's a bad stretch of games. It happens. The NBA is a game of runs. Momentum, as we've talked about before on this show, is easy to get and hard to keep. That's why the key word in momentum is moment. It's quick. It's a flash, and they will be fine. The Warriors don't give a damn about first place. They care about healthy, making sure the rotations are set. The Warriors, maybe the Suns, maybe the Grizzlies are the only 2 teams that can give them any type of trouble in the playoffs. So I'm not worried about the Warriors at all. They have Steph Curry. Did you watch his warm-up the other day? I'm not worried about having the best shooter in the NBA. They will be fine. The Warriors, they have, again, Tomas said it again, they're not supposed to be here. They're playing, to me, with house money. They're getting and Justin Ayton on the Warriors because they're about to get caught. I wouldn't even, not only the, matter of fact, I'll do it. I'll go ahead and say it. Not only are the Warriors not in trouble, they're going to be number 1 seed in the West by the time the season's over.
That is possible because, as TV mentioned, Chris Paul is not expected back for the rest of the regular season.
And we already know Devin Booker can't lead a team, so we're good.
I'm not here for the Booker slander, though. I'm not here for that. What I will say, and I mean, both of you are right. Reality is, they're just missing Draymond and Andre Iguodala to a lesser extent. What people don't realize, right? Everyone talks about the identity that Draymond brings on the defensive end. And sure, as much he is that guy. Protects the rim, makes great rotations. He's their signal caller in the back end of their defense. Like, he is everything defensively. What people fail to realize, as much as he is important defensively, it is what he does on the offensive end that they're missing. And I say that to say, he is essentially their facilitator, their playmaker. He is the guy who makes that engine run. Yes, Steph Curry is the best player on the team. There's no doubt about that. And they don't do what they do without the incredible shot making that Steph Curry is. But their system is predicated on ball movement. And guess who is the guy who makes these passes and makes everything connect? Draymond Green. And even if you look past Draymond Green, that other facilitator beyond Steph Curry is, guess who? Andre Iguodala. Both of these guys are not playing. These are guys that play down the crunch especially. And I don't see a situation if both guys are playing that they give up a 21-point lead. That's not happening. A 26-1 run to finish the game. It's not happening with Draymond and Iguodala on either end of the floor. And I think people underestimate what Draymond Green really means to this team. I think people miss the point. If not for his stupid technical foul against LeBron James where he gets ejected, Draymond Green is going to be the finals MVP in that series, huh? Like, that's how good he played in that series. He's the finals MVP. This guy means so much. I'd go as far as to say Draymond Green is the identity of this Golden State Warriors team on both ends. Yes, Steph Curry is absolutely amazing. Yes, in my mind, he's a top 15 player of all time already. But everything works because Draymond, as you all said, he teaches the young guys. He is the guy who is their defensive identity, and he is the guy who makes that basketball roll around. And whenever he gets back, and whenever Klay Thompson is, fully healthy, I'm not so sure about James Wiseman, but jury's still out on him. But whenever those two guys get back with Andre Iguodala, they'll be just fine, and hopefully we build up enough cushion that they don't catch us. If Chris Paul was healthy, I don't think they would. because I think we need that number one seed more than they do, because obviously they all have title winning experience, and unfortunately, we do not. And again, as I said, guys, in any game, there are two sides of the coin. And we lost a hard-fought one against Utah Jazz, who have now won 8 of their last 9 games. Jerm, should we stop overlooking the Utah Jazz as a serious title contender?
I like the Utah Jazz. So I'm going to say we can overlook them, but it's really not. The problem with the Utah Jazz is they can't defend small ball. Their greatest strength on defense is also their greatest weakness. Rudy Gobert has to be out there, but time and time again, the reason why they keep losing, no matter how great Donovan Mitchell has been in these playoffs, is because these teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors and all these small ball teams are pulling Rudy Gobert out of the paint, and they're just blowing by him on the perimeter. And the Utah just doesn't have anybody else that can defend that. It doesn't matter how many threes they can make. It doesn't matter how great Donovan Mitchell is. And I don't know if it's roster construction or they just have to figure it out. But I will say, I don't think they can win a title with the way their roster is presently constructed. I don't think they need an overhaul, but and I'm not saying that they're not. I mean, they're number 1 in offensive efficiency and they're number 10 in defensive efficiency. I mean, their net rating is 3rd in the NBA. They're a really, really good team. And if you look at some of their numbers, you would say absolutely. The problem with the Utah Jazz is the matchups they're going to face, primarily with your Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors, who are the 2 teams that are going to be in their way. And I don't know how you would handle that because they haven't handled it. The track record's there, the history is there. They can't defend the small ball. It happens. It's the number 1 reason why they keep getting bounced out of the playoffs. And I don't know what they're going to do. So,
Tomas, do you feel the same way?
I feel like they're like the Milwaukee Bucks from like 2-3 years ago, where just like playoff exit after playoff exit, first or second round, and they just really just couldn't figure things out until like that one breakthrough year, which was the Bucks from last year. They got through the struggles they were facing, and then they got the chance to win the championship, beating the Phoenix Suns. Sorry, Justin, but yeah. But this year, the Utah Jazz, I feel like they're kind of in the same spot because like what was mentioned before, they have like the best offense in the league. It's crazy how efficient they are on the offensive end. And the defense, yes, it is a problem, but you see glimpses that Rudy Gobert is getting slightly better at the switches and stuff like that. You could see like minimal improvement there. But I just think that kind of like the Milwaukee Bucks from last year, if they have a few breaks that can go their way, they could really be serious title contenders. I mean, they got unfortunate with matchups as well, but the Bucks got a few things to go their way. We can like all agree on that. But if the Utah Jazz gets kind of similar things, we know what as like a 5-man unit they could do. They brought in Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I'm not sure how many minutes they can get in the playoffs, but we know what they could do in the regular season, especially when Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell are healthy. I don't want to believe in them just yet. I don't want to overlook them either. But if they can like figure this out, if they can somehow like kind of mitigate at least even a little bit of the problems they had last year against the Clippers, I really do believe that they could be a serious title contender. But I don't want to believe in it just yet, just because we have seen the past, we have seen what has gone wrong with this team. But I'm not gonna take them fully out of the conversation. They are a ridiculous team, especially in the regular season. But few breaks go their way, they could really be in that position, of the Suns last year, the Bucks last year as well. So this is more of a wait and see type thing. I don't want to get too high, I don't want to get too low. But the Jazz are a really good team.
They are a good team, especially like they are elite offensively and very good against traditional teams defensively. But it's when teams decide to go small and attack Gobert. That's the problem, and so many teams in the West can afford to do that. My Suns, Golden State Warriors, Dallas Mavericks, they can all downsides and just attack Gobert, pick and roll him to death. I also have this thing. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit of an elitist. I don't like teams led by small guards. In that, I like Donovan Mitchell to a particular extent, but he's so small. And when it comes to playoff basketball, as we all know, the whistles kind of dry up. So there are not as many fouls going on. And teams can body him up with bigger players and kind of defend that. Again, we have the players, like we have a Mikal Bridges that can take care, well, not exactly take care of that, but we can defend that. So too can Golden State. And you see, like Mike Conley in the playoffs, yeah, I want to believe in the Utah Jazz. I really do. But playoff basketball is about matchups, and I just don't know if a team can force Rudy Gobert off the court and then, create problems for Donovan Mitchell. I think they're still one star away. I'll say that. Like, if you could go ahead, Jerm.
I was just gonna say, yeah, like I don't know what that star is though. Like I don't know if that's a stretch four that can slide to the center to help defensively. It's weird because, like you said, they are probably the best offense. It's hard to stop them. And a team with Mike Conley and Royce O'Neal and Rudy Gobert, they shouldn't be this bad defensively. I don't like the one saving grace they have for this year for me is that their offense has never been better. Maybe in the playoffs again. Like Tomas and like you were saying, if they can get hot against the right matchup, maybe that momentum carries them through the playoffs like it did for Milwaukee when Chris Middleton was playing out of his mind. It can happen. Things can happen. So it's weird. Like I don't think we can overlook them. I just go by history. I like track record. I don't, we've seen that's how you beat these Utah Jazz. But if their offense can stay as elite as it's been, who knows what could happen. I just don't see them beating Golden State, Phoenix, maybe the Grizzlies in a 7-game series. I just don't.
I'm right there with you. But as you mentioned, Phoenix, we may have to go without Chris Paul for the rest of the regular season. We have a current 6-game cushion on the rest of the Western Conference. TV, is there any way the Suns, and they're currently on a 2-game slate, can the Suns withstand the absence of Chris Paul?
I believe that they can keep the number 1 seed. I really do. And a lot of that has to do with kind of how big the gap that they created earlier on in the season. Because even though the Suns are the number 1 Warriors are starting to get healthy, Draymond Green's back at practice and all that, Klay might be back soon, they're still 6 games ahead. They are still 6 games ahead. And there's 21 games left? It's still a big ask for the Warriors to kind of overtake the Suns at that point. But this is what's good about the Phoenix Suns. They've went on multiple 10-plus game winning streaks. They did their work early on in the season. And they can kind of afford to lose Chris Paul for the next 6 to 8 weeks if it means that he is healthy come playoff time. Now, when it comes to the way they're executing right now, they're having some problems, especially in the clutch, because Chris Paul is one of the best clutch players in the league. Him and DeMar DeRozan are really up there in terms of how well they play in the clutch. But I think they can kind of figure that out. I think Devin Booker can get to that point where he can close out games at times for the Phoenix Suns. My issue with the Phoenix Suns is that it's something that's kind of been there all year, and I was hoping that this was a chance for him to really up his play now that Chris Paul's gone. Deandre Ayton has not looked the way we want him to, and he has not been playing that potential max contract guy that Suns fans were hoping for. I mean, sure, he had 20-plus point games in the last 2 games without Chris Paul, but they gave up a bunch of rebounds, and that's because DeAndre Ayton is just not fighting as hard out there. 7 and 5 rebounds, respectively, in the last 2 games. He isn't stepping up the way I was hoping for. I mean, when Chris Paul came to the team, I was hoping that DeAndre Ayton could maybe get into that all-star caliber player, which he hasn't yet. But kind of just him not taking that leap is kind of would be a little bit concerning if you're the Phoenix Suns, especially if you're you want to sign him to a max contract deal, which is what he's looking for. But get back to the question in terms of them trying to keep the number 1 seed. I really do think they can, but their issues are kind of beyond what's going to happen in the regular season. I just don't know if DeAndre Ayton can kind of take it to the next level, which is what the Suns kind of need if they want to go back on another run, especially with all these great teams in the league right now.
Same thing, Jerm. Can the Suns withstand Chris Paul's injury?
Yeah, I mean, so what does withstand mean? If withstand means keep the number 1 seed, I don't know, maybe not, but fall off the cliff. Monty Williams has coached this team extremely well. Coach of the year to me, and I think the culture and everything he's created. So yeah, so what if? And I guarantee you, if the Suns were fighting for a playoff spot, Chris Paul would come back a lot sooner than what they're saying. So yeah, you get you sit out the regular season, you get that week break because of the play-in tournament, and you probably don't need to play him in the first round of the playoffs if you don't have to, or even if he comes back in the middle of that first round, whatever. So yeah, they can definitely withstand it. The key is to keep them as healthy as possible. There's no need to rush. Even if they have a 6-game cushion, even if they do slide, they're not going to slide past 3. So what does it matter? You're a top 4 seed in the conference. You're going to get into the playoffs. You're a highly confident team. You're a well-coached team. You're going to get your best player some rest. And they can definitely withstand this because they have the 2 most important things: Devin Booker and Monty Williams.
I like you, Jerm. I like you. I will say this Chris Paul injury is kind of untimely. Thankfully, we had a 6-game cushion. Minded this as much if campaign were playing. And I say that because when the starters on the court, particularly Devin Booker, who can clearly, facilitate, play that point guard position when need be, they're just fine. The issue is when you start to lean towards that bench, and obviously Booker needs rest. I'm going to say this, and I say this in the most pleasant way possible. Aaron Holiday, and Alfred Payton are not players who should be playing on a championship roster. I'll just say that. Like, they are NBA players, but they are not championship players. I'll just say that. This team is going to rely too much on Devin Booker because the playmaking beyond that, oh my gosh. And if campaign were playing, then I think, there's a drop-off because as TV mentioned, Chris Paul, along with DeMar DeRozan, are arguably the best clutch players in the NBA at this current moment. And Devin Booker is right there up with them. The issue comes now, that the only source of facilitating is coming from Devin Booker. So you can trap that, you can take the ball out of his hands. So to, our veteran presence. I don't want to pile on a young man because TV already did. You know what? Hell, I'm going to go there. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
Deandre Ayton is not that guy. And there is a reason why he is not getting that max contract because he's not a max contract player. He's there with Chris Paul and out there with Devin Booker when everyone else is getting attention. And, Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges up there spacing the floor. And I love Cam Johnson. When they're up there spacing the floor, it's fine. He looks great. He is not the guy you can throw the ball to and say, give me 20. He's not that guy. He is an extremely dependent player. He depends on people spacing the floor for him. He depends on people creating plays for him. You're not going to give him the ball down low and he's not going to bang, 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 turn and dunk on you. That is not DeAndre Ayton, unfortunately. But he wants to be paid like he is Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo. And what really, destroyed his position with the franchise is that he asked that money right after that finals performance, and it was bad because Milwaukee ignored him on both ends of the floor. First, it was like, well, you're at the paint, but we don't care. Giannis is going to dunk all over you anyhow. And on the opposite end, as you saw after game 2, their defensive focus was like, we are going to trap these pick and rolls. We are going to force Chris Paul and Devin Booker to make contested mid-range jumper after contested mid-range jumper. And whatever DeAndre Ayton wants to do, whether he rolls the paint fee, we don't care. If he switches up on a small, we don't care. And DeAndre Ayton was not good enough to punish the Milwaukee Bucks to the point at least where they were continuing to say, all right, maybe we should pay attention. Milwaukee ignored him, and he didn't make them pay. And we're seeing that same player over and over again. TV has been on the show with my best friend, Larry. We talk about this all the time. DeAndre Ayton is not a player who makes his presence felt in the paint. He doesn't put his shoulder in you. He doesn't rest. And he is not a physical player. And he is that guy. TV's correct. He is that guy who should be elevating, who should be telling himself, I am an all-star player. We're not seeing that guy. And I have this funny feeling. I think this is the best year we can win a title. But Jerm went ahead and got James Harden. No. At some point, Kevin Durant is going to return. Milwaukee's still Milwaukee. If DeAndre Ayton is not that guy, then I think we're going to beat the rest of the West. But the good teams in the Eastern Conference with Bam and Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ayton has to be that guy. And unfortunately, gentlemen, Ayton isn't.
You know, it's funny because, like, if you were to upgrade him, because there's no way you can pay him that money. Like, I mean, that would be insane. But you look at the prospects. I mean, Yusuf Nurkic, Derek Favors, Serge Ibaka, Thomas Bryant. Like, you may be forced to pay him because there's nobody else, unless you can, do a trade where you bring a big. And I don't know any bigs that would be on the move. So it's like you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I would try to make a trade for somebody and maybe trust, maybe trust a Thomas Bryant who's young. You know what I mean? JaVale McGee is a good backup. I don't think I would trust him, but I would, there's not many like Andre Drummond. You want to take a flyer on him for a year or so until, you know what I mean? Like what do you do? So you're kind of stuck with him. But so I don't think you pay him. I think you take a flyer on a Yusuf Nurkic or a Derek Favors until and then draft. I mean, and just hope for the best, man. Like that's all you can do.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Jerm here because the thing is, like, with the Phoenix Suns, they're not a massive market, and there's like such a select few really good bigs in the league. And let's be honest, looking at Joel Embiid, he's not leaving whatsoever. Nikola Jokic, not leaving whatsoever. Bam Adebayo, perfect situation for him in Miami. I mean, is there anyone else like really out there? I mean, I'm even asking you, Justin. Is there like really anyone else out there? There's not really like much like other options. So you're kind of forced, like DeAndre Ayton like has like kind of all the leverage here because you have nothing really like out there in the market. And you have to keep him because you got to keep this team competitive as long as Chris Paul is playing at this level. You gotta, and especially for the duration of his contract, you just kind of have to bet on him. And even though I'm not liking what I'm seeing so far, you're kind of stuck in that like rabbit hole. So either way, you kind of have to deal with it. But at this point, I was really hoping he was going to be like a near All-NBA player right now, but he really hasn't been.
That's why they paid James Jones big bucks, because I can't make these decisions. And the decisions that should not have been made was to trade for Russell Westbrook, bring in Carmelo Anthony, and every person that was over 35 years of age. And of course, we're talking about none other than the Los Angeles Lakers. Jerm, can you fix the issues that are going on in LA? Because trust and believe they go well past Russell Westbrook.
The Lakers had a young core of Larry Nance Jr., Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, Kyle Kuzma, Julius Randle, and they traded them all away.
Oh, don't forget my guy, Brandon Ingram.
Oh, and Brandon Ingram. Oh, my bad.
Yes,
I'm so
Brandon
sorry.
Ingram,
So it's the best of the bunch. My bad. So how do you fix the Lakers? You start over. You trade LeBron James. You trade Anthony Davis. You get rid of all the LAARP Lakers. You get rid of all of them. And you start all over. You get everything you can for LeBron. You get everything you can for AD. And you start over. And that's literally the best you can do. The Lakers, it's over. They quit. The season's done. Even if they somehow limp into the play-in tournament, they're going to get bounced by your Phoenix Suns anyway. Like nothing has gone right for that team. You fire the coach, you fire Rob Pelinka, and you literally start over. I am a destroy and rebuild guy. I don't tinker with things. If it's not working, I take it all down and I start over from scratch. That is the tried and true. I'm a military guy. That is the tried and true way to fix things. And that's the way I would do it. I'm dead serious. I would trade LeBron and I would trade Anthony Davis this offseason and I would start over. You can't trust Anthony Davis to be healthy. Clearly, Anthony Davis is the catalyst because the Lakers can't make the playoffs unless he's there. LeBron can't do it by himself anymore. And so the two times the Lakers didn't make the playoffs happened to be the two times that Anthony Davis isn't around. LeBron James' first year as a Laker, and then now this season they're just he's been out a bunch of games, and now they're in the play-in scenario, but they're not where people thought they would be. And so I would except you, Justin. You called it. I would seriously, and they're not going to do it. I get that, but that's how Jerm from Stuff About Sports would absolutely do it. I would hit the reset button and I would just start over.
Go right ahead.
All right. Oh, I mean, Jerm said it best. I mean, I guess, like, I mean, the most logical thing to do, you have a 37-year-old LeBron James. You got Anthony Davis, who clearly cannot stay on the floor. To trade everything away. It really is. But I do want to go back to the kind of the root of this problem. And I actually want to go back all the way to the year they won, like after they won a championship. Because Anthony Davis signed that 5-year super max, I think it was like a max deal or something like that. And he was asked on this, like, I think like later on in the offseason, why didn't you like do the 2-year deal? Because the same thing that's happening with Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal, they're waiting till they turn 30 so they can sign that, super max deal, try to get that kind of $50 million a year type thing. And Anthony Davis said in that interview, sometimes you just you kind of like, he knows his own body, he knows all this. And for some people, you just can't bet on yourself. And he knows his own body. He knows that he is not able to stay on the floor. And that was already the first red flag for this like Lakers era that I was like, uh-oh, do they really want to do this? I mean, even Anthony Davis himself is not convinced that he can hold up like for that long. And we've seen it year in, year out. Why weren't the Lakers able to get out of the first round last year? Anthony Davis injury. He was always in and out of the lineup. That's always the main factor. And them tying themselves to that for the next, like, I think 3 more years after this is the biggest problem there, because you can blame Russell Westbrook all you want. He is like, although he hasn't had the best year, he's still, he's doing like what he can. Like he is not the main the catalyst for all their failures. I mean, it's poor roster construction. Like, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, Trevor Ariza like a drafted guy who's just there to shoot threes, and he really can't be he's not really doing that right now at the moment. This all really stems back to Anthony Davis, because LeBron's gonna put up his numbers, and you see how good him and Anthony Davis could be. But the same way that Dallas Mavericks had to trade away Porzingis because they can't trust him to be on the floor, the Lakers are kind of in that same position. And I don't know, just like him, like saying that, like that he can't even trust his own body. When you see someone like Fred VanVleet say, I trust myself, I can bet on myself, I can get the money I want, coming from a Raptor fan, and you see kind of the mentality Anthony Davis has. You're just like, you don't want that mentality on your team, especially for someone that you're trying to build your entire future around. That was already the first red flag, and everything else just started like falling down after that.
Yeah, Anthony Davis, the moment he got that championship ring, it seemed to be over. Like he didn't come into the next season in very much shape. He didn't seem hungry anymore. That was the one thing that was driving him. And so, like, it's weird, to fix the Lakers to the question. Like I said, I don't foresee the Lakers trading LeBron. It's not a realistic thing. It's just I'm answering how I would do it. What's their most tradable asset? It's not Anthony Davis, because, as we just said, he's not hurt. What's the one thing that's going right for the Lakers this season? It is LeBron James. Next year will be an expiring contract. He'll only have 1 more year left on his deal. So why not? Don't you think a team that is in borderline contention or in contention would trade a bunch of their picks to add LeBron James? I'm going to use Cleveland as an example. You don't think that adding LeBron James the Cleveland should not want LeBron James to come back? I know that's been flirted out there. If I was Cleveland, I would not want LeBron James back, because they finally got out of his shadow. I'm just using them because they're a good example. They're 4th in the East. They're not good enough to win the East, but adding LeBron James to that current team, Washington, we can use Washington as an example too. You add LeBron to that Washington team, they could go ahead and win it.
Well,
Cleveland.
We saw that in LA, because basically that's the same players who that's in Washington with the exclusion of deal. So, I mean,
yeah. They but like I said, LeBron is probably their most tradable asset, because he's playing the best of the Lakers, and chances are he's going to leave anyway, because he already said he wanted to play with his son. So, you get him next year. His contract's expiring. Anthony Davis can't stay on the court. I would think a trade package. Do you think teams would rather trade for LeBron or rather trade for Anthony Davis? I'm sure both of them. It'll be LeBron. So if I'm the Lakers, what can you realistically? You've already tried to bring in literally everything to help LeBron win another title. It didn't work. I mean, you look at their roster. I mean, it's insane. The fact that they're underperforming like this, I don't care how old the guys are. They have talented, skilled players that were doing fine. But you get these guys together and it just didn't work. I don't know what else you do. Like, you gut it and bring in who? You bring in the Frank Ntilikina's, you bring in the Kemba Walker. Like, who are you bringing in? It's so, yeah, if I was the Lakers, you have to think 10 years down the road and not this year or next year. The Lakers, what can the Lakers do next year that can help them win a title? Nothing. There's nothing they can do. It's over. And so the best thing you can do is hit the reset button. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. Trade LeBron. Oh my God. But hey, they're about to be out of the playoffs, buddy. And what else are they going to do?
I like how you're thinking, Jerm. So I agree with you, actually. I'm a big LeBron fan. In the long term, it would make sense to trade LeBron James. Anthony Davis, you're not going to net as much as LeBron James. As you also mentioned, no team is ever going to trade LeBron James, especially in LA, where you realize their MO, their brand has always been to get the big star, to bring in stars, because that's how they do it. Like, unlike other owners, Jeannie Buss makes her money off of the Lakers. It's not like she owns some shipping company or she is the owner of Kraft Mac and Cheese. Her money comes through the Lakers. And to make sure that franchise makes money, and you see all these stars in the front row, stars come to watch stars. So they're not coming to see anything else but LeBron James. And if you look through the Buss's time as owners in Lakers, from Magic and Kareem to Shaq and Kobe to LeBron James and Anthony Davis, this is what they do. They don't draft stars because they've never really been in a position to draft them outside of Magic and Kobe. They bring them in. Like, that's what the Lakers do. So, yes, Jerm, I agree. The problem, the best way is probably to hit the reset button, see what you can get for LeBron James, maybe even an Anthony Davis. But that's not this franchise's MO. They're never going to do that.
Yeah,
right.
So in the short term,
I was just gonna say, like, if any Laker fans listening, I mean, this has not been a failure. Even like whatever happens, like whatever like stupid moves that this front office does, it hasn't been a failure. They got the championship. That makes up for whatever like happens for the next few years. I mean, you could build for the next 10 years, wait for the next championship. But this era of the Lakers with LeBron James, with Anthony Davis, it doesn't matter. You got the championship there in 2020. Everything else is just gravy at this point. So, I mean, it is looking bad right now, but you really can't complain because whatever moves, like, I mean, it's the same thing with Cleveland. You can't complain about like them, like LeBron gutting their franchise out of all those picks and stuff like that because they got their championship. Same thing with the Lakers. They gave up their entire future. They got the championship. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, glorified journeyman LeBron James got you what you needed. He'll move on to another team just like every 4 years. It's like a college transfer student, and he'll move on to the next team. And to me, it has been a failure. They got one title out of it, right? Or something, and that's LeBron James. When you're put on a certain pedestal, and I've had this argument, and Justin is supposed to come on our show. I've called Andrew Luck the greatest bust of all time, the biggest bust of all time. And when you are put on a certain pedestal, your return on investment does not equal the hype. That is a failure to me. LeBron James, time in Miami, yes, they were in the finals 4 times. They only won 2. At that time, that level of talent, the amount of hype it was getting, they should have won more. LeBron James in LA with all of the talent and everything that came with it, they should have won more. It's over already. Like, I mean, this is the Lakers we're talking about. This is one of the top 5 brands in the world, and you are LeBron James, the biggest basketball player in the world, and you're already out of title contention already, and you're talking about leaving already. To me, that's a failure. Winning one title somewhere doesn't really mean anything anymore. Do you think Cleveland's living off that title still?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
You're bugging. Anybody in Cleveland, that's a LeBron title. Hey, Tomas, no disrespect. That title Toronto has is a Kawhi title.
But
nobody
he's living
thinks.
off of it, though. Trust me.
I got you, but nobody in the larger basketball. I feel you, bro. Hey, I'm happy for your city. I want Philly to have that. I really do. But people don't talk about that anymore. And that happened recently. Nobody says anything. They're not regarded in the pantheon of NBA champions because they were paper champions. I mean, that's all. I mean, honestly, no disrespect to Toronto, no disrespect to the Cleveland Cavaliers. That is a paper champion by true definition. That nobody thinks of them as NBA champion, not championship franchises. Certainly not the Cavaliers. They just got good again, and the Raptors historically just have been a city of harvesting really good talent, Hall of Fame talent, and then they move on to have championships elsewhere. So we'll see if Fred VanVleet can kind of break that curse. And well, I mean, I don't know. I like Fred VanVleet. I think he should have probably moved on, but they're giving him money, and I like his story, and hopefully he can make it happen in Toronto.
But to your point, though, and I want to go backtrack to Anthony Davis. I hope you all also realize the reason Anthony Davis was good enough to win him a title, it was because he got all of that rest.
100%.
Bubble, because they had that long break, which he typically would not have had, and he was allowed to heal up his body, and that's why he was so great in the bubble. In the short term, there's nothing the Lakers can do to put them in contention. You can bench Russell Westbrook so he doesn't play alongside LeBron James anymore, which I thought was the obvious situation going forward. But then Anthony Davis got hurt. You can stop playing Trevor Ariza. Please stop playing Trevor Ariza.
I don't know, man.
I don't know why Malik Monk does not start. He is the perfect LeBron James role player. Like, I don't know how you don't know realize it's like, if you want a role player on the wing for LeBron James, Malik Monk is that guy.
He's sober J.R. Smith.
Basically, I couldn't have said it any better. He is sober J.R. Smith. That's who you want playing next to LeBron James. And beyond that, I don't know what else you do. Like, don't play a big when Russell Westbrook is on the court. Like, you don't play Dwight Howard or don't play DeAndre Jordan when Russell Westbrook is on the court, because there's only one way Russell Westbrook can score. And that still doesn't, like, the only thing I can see, right? Hear me out, guys. This is LA. You go to somebody's film studio, you hijack the DeLorean, you go back in time, and you refuse to make that Russell Westbrook trade, and you go and you actually make the trade for Buddy Hield instead.
That's your guy LeBron, man. He's giving out max contracts to J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson, and he's doing all this craziness all around the league. LeBron, just play basketball, man. So let the front office do their job.
Well, guys, it has been fun. I wish we could talk some more, but I've run out of topics. So first, TV, plug yourself quickly and let the kind folks know how to find you.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can find me on Instagram at TV on Basketball as well. I've been doing a lot of stuff on my TikTok. You gotta check that out. Lots of stuff going on over there. I definitely gotta have Justin on, even Jerm over here. Maybe he could come on the show sometime. But there's definitely there's, especially with the playoffs coming around, there's gonna be a lot of content coming your way. So be on the lookout for that. I am focusing a lot on TikTok right now because of school stuff, and it's really nice to do some TikTok videos. But that's like probably the best place you can see like most of my content. But either way, still posting on daily on Instagram. You can check me out. It was just awesome being back on the show. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, guys, he is one of the best basketball followers. So please go look for TV on basketball, especially on Instagram. Jerm, I feel like I have you on too often, but I had to bring you back this week simply because I couldn't watch the Philadelphia 76ers look like world beaters and say, you know what, don't bring Jerm on. No, I had to give you your time to shine.
I appreciate it.
Plug yourself.
I appreciate it, man. I'm Jerm from Stuff About Sports, one half of Stuff About Sports with my partner Bert. We are at Stuff About Sports on Instagram, Facebook. Hashtag Stuff About Sports on your little Googleables. If you can't find us, you're not looking too hard. I see people in our chat here. In the feed of your show, a paper champion is a boxing term. It's basically a champion that didn't really deserve it, or it's not. It's just the champion on paper nobody respects. Yes, I already said the people in those cities are living off those championships as they should, but the NBA world as a whole understand that those are LeBron and Kawhi championships. They're not saying they're Raptors teams. It is what it is. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, it's true. I don't know, whatever. Anyway. Yeah, find me on Stuff About Sports. Tomorrow, we will. This was like a warm up. This was like preseason for me because me and Ty, another part of our network, will be doing a Sixers only stuff about sports tomorrow at 8:30 on Facebook Live and YouTube. So come check us out.
Those may be paper titles, but trust me, I and the rest of our Phoenix Suns fans would just love one of those paper titles.
I feel you.
I would love just one. So please, God, grant me Chris Paul health in the playoffs. Yeah, like TV, I would like one of those banners, like just one, and not like 4 or 5 or 6.
See, but so the Suns winning one title and not getting back would not be a paper champion because it's not like they had a mercenary come in for 1 year and then win them the title and then dip off. You know what I mean? Like, so it's or a journeyman, like a guy who just keeps getting traded. You've had your team for a little while, and then that's there's a difference there between that and what happened with the Raptors.
Even if we call it paper championship, give me that damn paper championship. I'm gonna take that.
I feel you.
But guys, yeah, you know how to find us. That's hashtag this just in. We are on all socials. Please put in the hashtag or you will be taken to Max Kellerman's ESPN show, and you really don't want that. You want this show real. Yes, you see TV's telling you want this show. That is hashtag this just in. We are primarily on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as usual, every Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Eastern now, 9 p.m. in the Caribbean, 7 p.m. Central. You can find us here every Monday night. So for TV, for Jerm, I am the Justin of hashtag this Justin signing out. Thank you so very much for tuning in.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. If God's with the king on that, he'll get the day. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.